Okay.
Hi, I'm Kari.
And I'm Susan.
We're so excited to be able to share some seasonal recipes with you guys using all of our amazing oils. Susan is going to get us started with a hot cider featuring, what is it, cinnamon and clove?
Cinnamon and clove. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
I've had this simmering since this morning, and this has a whole gallon of apple cider in it, which is really about twice of what the original recipe calls for, but we're a big group, and I know everybody's gonna want some. So I have cut up in there an apple, a lemon, and an orange, and the recipe calls for some allspice berries. I didn't have that in my kitchen, but I did have some cinnamon sticks, so that's what we're gonna use today. And then we have our cinnamon oil and some clove, and just a couple of drops of those. So since I doubled the recipe, I did double the amount of oil. I didn't double the fruit because I've done this before and it really works out okay, and it all still fits in my crock pot. And then by the end of the day, I'll be able to sit down and have some hot apple cider after a meal this evening. So a couple of things you want to think about when you're using your essential oils for cooking is, first of all, you want to use oils that are safe for internal use. And the way that we know that is by looking on the back of this bottle and seeing that supplemental facts label on the back. Also, you don't need a special recipe. There are so many terrific recipes on the doTERRA website, as well as a fantastic ebook on cooking. So look that up for sure. But use your oils in your favorite recipes. We have a favorite pancake recipe I've made since my kids were babies, and we just like to add some lemon oil to it or some wild orange, and we can have fun with our oils with the recipes that we would be making anyway. So think about how you can kind of creatively incorporate them into what you would be making on a daily basis.
I love that. And then how long does it last? Like if I'm making the cider, do you put it in the fridge after, or does it just never even make it that far in your household?
In our house, we don't really have to worry too much about it getting to the fridge. But at the end of the day, what I would do if I still had some leftover, and certainly for, a smaller family, or if you're, just cooking for a couple of people, you could make it on the stovetop in a saucepan instead of using the whole crock pot. But at the end of the day, I save the jug that the apple cider came in, let it cool completely, especially if it came in a plastic container. You don't want to put it in there hot. But then use a funnel and ladle it back into the bottle, put it in the fridge. You can save it, and you can either have it as a great spiced cold apple cider, or you can reheat it the next time you want to use it. Really simple.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, sometimes that's a whole gallon, right? So honestly, in our house, it wouldn't last the night because, right? Let's be real. We have a big family. We both have big families. So, nothing like that stays around.
I don't have to worry too much about the leftovers.
No, it's not a big deal, right? So I wanted to share something else that's kind of beverage oriented with you guys. So I have a simple syrup here. If you've never made simple syrup before, it's incredibly easy, but it is a powerful tool to have in your home if you're someone who's trying to avoid sodas or you're avoiding sort of any toxins at all, but you still want to have that fun flavor that you get from having, a carbonated drink or whatever it is that you're looking for. To make simple syrup, the typical recipe calls for equal parts of sugar and water. In our household, I really like to do twice the water to the sugar. So in other words, I'll do 1 cup of sugar to 2 cups of water. The reasoning is my kids, I usually make a big jar of it. My kids, we put all of the different citrus oils in there. I'm going to talk to you a minute about how to do that. But they like to take that, put it over ice. They use about a tablespoon of the simple syrup in a nice big glass over ice, and then add to it some sparkling mineral water. And it is absolutely delicious. Fantastic little treat to have if you're not doing sodas and such in the home, which, you can endless flavors with this, right? Any of your different oils that are ingestible, you can include in there. The one tip I want to share, though, is don't put your oils in while the water or the syrup itself is hot. Let it cool down to room temperature first. What I like to do is go ahead and pour it into the jar that I'm using. In this case, I make gift size. These bottles are amazing, by the way. You can find them online. Has a nice little twist top to it, but then it has this little foil wrapping on here that you can use a hair dryer and it seals it, which is just, how cute is this? Imagine a little bow on here or something like that. Limitless flavors. But what I do is I put the simple syrup in when it's room temp, and then I add the oils. The reason for this is I don't want to change the chemical constituents of the oil. I want it to be as though I'm having the oils in my water, right? Give it a little shake. Once you open it, go ahead and store it in the refrigerator. This one here has in it grapefruit and tangerine, which is one of our favorites because it has like a ruby red grapefruit flavor, but it's limitless. In fact, you could even make a really yummy clove and cinnamon, like Susan's amazing recipe for the cider. So great gift, great idea. The next thing I'm going to show you though is a super easy cheater recipe. Susan's the cook. I mean, let's be real, right? Susan's the cook. I'm the assembler. Okay, that's what I like to consider myself. I assemble food. Susan cooks food. So one of my favorite things, and ever since I started doing doTERRA, you will know this about me. If you come to my house, you're going to get hummus, and you're going to get a whole variety of flavors. Did I make the hummus? No, but I did make the flavors. So, I mean, I do like to make hummus, but it's not always easy. If you don't know, we're living in an RV right now because we're traveling across the country with our family. So I don't have the ability to have an entire food processor in here. Some adjustments had to be made, right? So what I do is I go to Costco, I get the big old thing of hummus, the plain flavor, no flavoring at all, right? And I separate it out. And then in that, I can add whatever oils I want. This one here, what I have is one of my all-time favorites. This is rosemary and wild orange. Note, you really kind of have to like get a little playful with it. Do it at home first before you try this and like take it to a friend's house, right? The wild orange, you can add 3 to 4 drops to this small amount. Then rosemary, you really want to stick with 1, maybe 2 because it fell in, because you know what I mean, how that works with oils. But amazing. I like to do black pepper and lime. There's so many different ones. Susan, you've done some.
I do.
What's your favorite?
Wild orange, even by itself, but I also like a lemon and basil. A little lemon oil and a drop of basil oil is really delicious.
Isn't it amazing how fresh it tastes, though? It's
Absolutely.
like, it's the easiest thing ever, right? I love it. So, yeah, I just think it's, the first time I did it, I was like, oh, done. Like, this is now the thing I bring everywhere. Right. Side note, great way to start a conversation about oils. If you're showing up at a barbecue or a family event with this amazing hummus, I guarantee you people, especially like if you do 2 or 3 and you make like a little label that says like rosemary, wild orange, you know, lemon basil, whatever it is, somebody's going to ask, clearly you made these, right? Where did you get these? How did you make them? There you go. Conversation. Amazing. So what you got for us next?
All right. Well, next, since we're talking about the herbal oils, to me, that's a great segue into how do you convert from your standard recipes and dried herbs to your oils, right?
So typically you want to think about each drop of oil is going to replace about a teaspoon of dried herb. So the ratio is usually a tablespoon fresh to a teaspoon dried to a drop of oil. So for example, if you're going to replace, I use oregano oil a lot in cooking. Not because I actually have fresh oregano in my yard, but it's not always available depending on the season. It's not always convenient depending on, you know, what's going on. And I can flavor an entire pot of soup like this with 1 drop of oregano. So it's so powerful and yet so pure. So we know that when we're using our doTERRA oils that we're only adding goodness, right, into our foods that we're going to feed our loved ones. So that's really huge. So speaking of that, let's move on to a soup. So this is a roasted butternut squash soup that I've been working on this morning. And I went the easy route. This is a package from Costco of already peeled and chopped butternut squash. But if you prefer to cut up a fresh one, you're absolutely welcome to do that. You can roast it in the oven beforehand, along with the aromatics, some celery and onion, and a little bit of carrots. If you need to fast track that recipe though, that's what I do. I put it in the Instant Pot, put it on the soup setting. It also calls for some broth, so you can use vegetable or chicken, depending on what your preference is, and some spices, and you're good to go. The oils in this are going to be our cinnamon oil, cinnamon bark, and cardamom, which adds just a really beautiful depth of flavor. It's a great little bowl of soup. So you can, if you have like a Vitamixer or, you know, any kind of blender, and you want to put this in the blender to puree really, really smooth, you'll get a nice velvety consistency. We went the fast route today, and I used my immersion blender right in the pot and pureed it that way. Makes it really speedy. It's a beautiful dish, even for company. A nice starter. We don't do starters for Thanksgiving. I don't know, do you? We kind of eat and pick all day and save up the really big appetite, you know, for Thanksgiving dinner and dessert. But if you do like a starter for Thanksgiving, it's fancy enough for that and yet simple enough it's easy to do for an every night dinner. So you can kind of see here we've garnished with a little bit of queso cheese and some pepitas. In New Mexico, we like to call them, and they are actually roasted pumpkin seeds. So anybody can do that, right? Makes it just a pretty little bowl of soup. Nice meal or a nice starter for a bigger meal.
I love that. And I love how you say that you're you did the cheater way or the shortcut way because the butternut squash was already cut up.
Yeah.
my cheater way would be that it was already made.
Well, come on over, sister, and we'll get you hooked up.
I love a good bisque. For me, bisque it's if I go somewhere to a restaurant or somewhere and they have a bisque, I'm gonna definitely be considering it. It's one of my favorite things. It's just something so warming and I don't know, comfort food about a bisque.
And it's filling yet, right? Like you don't feel like, oh, I only had a bowl of soup for lunch. Like it feels like you had something substantial. And
it's
so
super
yummy,
filling.
so packed with good things. Because there's just so much vegetable content in there. It's really good.
Yeah.
Get vegetables into our little people.
Have you ever done, you said, what kind of cream did you use? Is it regular cream or coconut cream?
I used heavy cream, which is what the recipe calls for, but it could very easily be substituted with something like a full-fat coconut milk. Especially if you want to keep it vegetarian or vegan, you can replace, the broth with a vegetable broth and use a coconut cream instead for the cream part. And it kind of depends on how creamy you like it too. I like a really creamy bisque, so it kind of depends on, kind of your I don't know, fat saturation level and how much you like that kind of thing. But I think a coconut milk would make it equally, kind of luscious and kind of velvety, which is what you're looking for.
Yes, and bring that like sweetness in, right?
Exactly.
I love it. I make a tomato bisque, something I actually make, right? A tomato bisque. But you know what? You put cream cheese in it. Ooh. And it's so good. It cuts the acid, you know what I mean, of the tomato, brings some sweetness, rounds it out. In fact, I need to make that. We brought our crock pot. I didn't bring my food processor, but it's Chewbacca because it's a Star Wars crock pot, right? But that is the easiest soup. And oh my gosh, when I think about all of the oils that I can use, you can imagine I didn't get to bring all my spices and stuff, but I had my oils. Of course, I'm bringing my oils. Forget about it, right? But I love that I get to have my oils with us that I'm using for all of our health and wellness needs, but I also get to use them in the kitchen, and it saved me a ton of space,
You have a whole spice cabinet, right? Just having your wellness kit with you.
I have beyond a whole spice cabinet. I have a world of opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
So I love how you put the herbs on the top of the soup, right? It's a good presentation.
Right.
But really the flavor's coming from the oils that you put into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I make a seasoning salt. You've seen it. You guys have gotten some from me, I'm sure, because it's like a favorite gift thing that we like to do. But the seasoning salt is amazing because you can make anything, really anything, any flavor that you want, as long as you also want it to be salty. So all I did, this is like a little tiny bottle. Or jar, I should say. What I like to do is get some Himalayan sea salt. You can get it just about anywhere now in bulk, right? You can do the coarse or you can do the fine depending on how you use it more. What I like to do though is like Susan did, I add some herbs to it because it doesn't feel like seasoning salt when you look at it if it doesn't have at least some sort of herbal look to it, right? But honestly, that's doing nothing for the flavor. The flavor's coming from the oils. So I put it in a bowl and mix it all together with just the herbs and salt. Then I put it into these little jars. This is the same size jar that I use in my household when I make these. We have them for lemon pepper. With the lemon pepper, I just add a bunch of fresh cracked pepper in there, the lemon oil and the black pepper. And then also for, like this one here is a summer savory, which is amazing. I did add some savory seasoning in here, but it's just the herb. It's not doing anything. But added to that, I put some rosemary, marjoram, and basil. But here's the thing, you don't need a lot. For a jar this size, what I do, put it in, I add just 1 drop, of course every once in a while another one falls in, 1 drop of each, then you, oh God, it smells so good, you guys. It's so good when you open this. So, put it in, shake it up really, really well, because what's going to happen initially is that the oil's going to kind of mix, with the salt. Shake it up really, really well. Before you give it as a gift or before you use it, you just really want to give it a good shake. I like to let it sit for about 3 to 4 days before I use it, because what happens is the oil will permeate into the salt as well as into that dried herb. And like I said before, as soon as you open it, it's like amazing. Just a little tiny sprinkle of this over a piece of fish or chicken or whatever you're cooking is incredible. I was telling Susan actually earlier that I put this on some avocado toast. It was amazing. It was better than my everything bagel seasoning, which, that's amazing. Another great gift thing, right? All right, so I want to show you guys something that I'm a little bit obsessed with right now, because I'm trying to eat more salads. I'm trying to eat, healthier. And I'm obsessed with citrus. I just think it's my favorite flavor. So what I'm going to show you how to do is this citrus. It's a winter citrus salad. What I have done, again, of course, because, I just assemble, is I did buy a pre-packaged, I know, but bear with me. Again, I couldn't have all the carrots, the celery, everything in here. But a little package of a pre-made salad. But I added to it a bunch of fresh spinach. My kids, some of them like it, some of them don't. But if I mix it in like with a regular, salad mixture, they're going to eat the spinach and it's not going to be a problem. So that's the base. On top of that, I went ahead and sliced up some ruby red grapefruit and some clementines. I chose these sweeter, more naturally sweet citruses because of my kids, obviously, but also it's a little bit less intense if you get that burst of one in your mouth, right? The key here is the dressing. For this dressing, I save jars. Susan, you save your jars, right? Or do you save all of your jars?
I do. Well, we go through a lot of jars.
We do too, but like
oil jars.
Oh, well, yeah, right? But like, I just find it amazing, especially when you're using anything with oils, having those good glass jars, how convenient that is to have, right? So this is a jar that I've had here. It's actually an old spaghetti sauce jar. What I did is I added half a cup of olive oil, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, which I know sounds weird, but bear with me, it's going to make sense in a minute. And then 2 cloves of garlic that I thinly sliced, 2 cracks of fresh salt that I grind, and then a whole bunch of black pepper, because I'm obsessed with black pepper. As far as like, fresh grinding it, not just the pepper shaker that you have at home. Then, this is important. Take some clementines, oranges, whatever you have that you want to throw in here. Even the ruby red grapefruit would be great. Slice them small, like to little bursty bite size, and put them in your dressing. Top it with a little bit of orange juice. Then you bring in your oils. For the oils, because remember I didn't do lemon, I did 4 to 6 drops of lemon oil, then 4 drops of wild orange, tangerine or grapefruit, whichever one, interchangeable. You can even do both, okay? 4 drops. And then this is the sort of secret weird one, 1 drop of cassia. Now, what this does is, it sounds a little weird with all the citruses, right? But it actually really brings the flavors together, and it's just that winter warmth, right, that you're looking for when you're having a salad at Thanksgiving or even just on a good cold day, okay? Put it in the jar, shake it up really vigorously, but this is key, don't use it yet. Let it sit for a couple hours and allow that citrus fruit that's inside of here to really absorb all that flavor, because what's going to happen is when you get one of those little bits in your bite, it's just going to burst with the flavor, and I'm telling you, it is amazing. Are you going to do that? Pour a little bit on your salad. You don't need much because you already have the citrus bits, sliced up citrus in the salad, which is going to bring a lot of fresh flavor as well. Then top it off with some fresh croutons, some feta cheese, and then my favorite, some pomegranate. The pomegranate, to me, just means holidays. It also means guacamole. Have you ever had it on your guacamole?
Oh.
Oh my goodness. You got to go to Phoenix. Go to Phoenix. Fresh made tableside guac with fresh pomegranate. I'm telling you, you will always add it to your guacamole. And there you go.
I spent
Yummy
a lot
salad.
of time in Phoenix. I never got pomegranate in my guacamole. That looks delicious.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
Susan.
It looks so good. I'll share my soup if you share your salad.
Hey, that sounds like a deal. But here's what I really want. You know what I really want?
I do.
Are
It's coming up next.
I want your cookies.
Are we ready to move on to dessert now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, here's the thing that's funny is I'm not a dessert person. And you have converted me. I mean, here's the deal. You are an amazing baker.
Oh.
So I'm always intimidated because if you make something, I'm like, I'm never making it, but I'm always going to show up at Susan's house when she makes it. And I've told everyone, if Susan ever bakes something, I don't care if you're like, I don't eat one. No, you eat it because you're going to love it. But these, I think I can make these.
Oh, you totally can.
I think I can do these. But they're my favorite.
Enjoy baking more than cooking. I cook because we all need to eat, but my real joy is baking. Always love to bake. But pumpkin cookies are really hard because I like a kind of crunchy, chewy cookie, not a cake cookie. That's not a cookie to me. That's like a little cake. So it's really hard with most pumpkin cookie recipes are actually a cake-like cookie. And because pumpkin adds a lot of moisture to a cookie batter, that tends to be the kind of texture that you get. So this is more of a cookie. It's got a little bit of nice crisp on the outside, but chewy on the inside. But the best part is the flavor, right? It's so yummy. So I have and will, before the fall's over, cooked my own pumpkin and made my own pumpkin puree. But normally I do these canned because it's so fast and easy. And so you're going to use your canned pumpkin, and you're going to get your cinnamon, clove, and ginger oil to work making these cookies taste so delicious. So I'm going to do a little demonstration for you. Let's see. I hope you can see it.
Oh, show us, because this is the thing I find. See, this is why you're a baker and I'm just a gal who tries to follow a recipe.
This is the clincher here. So let me get the fruit bowl out of the way. All right. So I'm going to put it right here and hope that that's visible. I'll pick it up when we're done. All right. So I have here a little bowl of sugar and just a measuring cup. And so all I'm going to do, I've already got my dough, my cookie batter portioned and rolled into little, think the typical kind of like walnut size kind of shape, or, an inch round or so. And then you're going to dip your measuring cup into some sugar and just flatten those cookies a little bit. So this is going to help mean that it starts cooking at a thinner width, if you will, height maybe, I don't know. Save the engineering for my children. And then you're going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top of those cookies. And what that's going to do is that means that it's already a little bit flattened, so it's going to start cooking at that level. It's going to spread out more, and that's how you're going to get this nice shape to your cookie and that crinkly, sugary top. And that's all you got to do. It's super simple.
They're so good. And it reminds me of like a peanut butter cookie, how you smush it.
Exactly. And, we talked about, could you use a fork? You probably could. I don't know. I didn't think about that. Sounds so silly. But I love the way they look. They kind of look like if you've ever had like a ginger snap or molasses, kind of a cookie. That's kind of the look. They don't have any eggs in them, so it's a really easy recipe to make vegan if you want to use all vegetable shortening. I use a mix of half butter, half coconut oil.
Oh,
and
really?
That, I think gives it a really nice texture. Yeah, so and the funny thing was this recipe kind of circulated around our team recently, and questions were asked about the shortening. And I said, I'm a butter baker. I bake with butter. And then somebody found a post from last year where I posted and said, well, I made these with half butter and half coconut oil. Take it from me, folks. The internet never forgets.
They were calling you out on your cookie recipe. They're like, girl,
but it was a good tip because the next time I made them, I went back to the half coconut oil and half, we're talking like the raw big tub of coconut oil.
Yeah.
And I usually melt that just because it's a lot easier to get a precise measurement if you do it as a liquid measure. And then a half a cup of butter. Now, my other tip with the pumpkin cookies, and I've seen this recipe, I mean, this has been around doTERRA, I think almost as long as I have, which is about 3 years now. And one of the tips is to reduce the pumpkin like on the stovetop in a saucepan. I actually skip that step. And I don't, I've done it both ways, and I have not found that it affects, I still get the texture that I really like, which is what I'm all about with a cookie. And I'm willing to go an extra step if it means I get, the texture that I want. But what I do instead, again, we're a big family. I have 5 kids, and everybody loves this cookie recipe. I mean, we actually had a discussion recently on a family movie night. Do you want chocolate chip or do you want pumpkin? And pumpkin won.
Yes.
Isn't that something? I was really impressed with the recipe. So what I do is, instead of reducing the pumpkin, I start with the same 1 cup of pumpkin, but then I double everything else. And that way I get about 4 to 5 dozen cookies out of the recipe. If you want a smaller recipe, you can start with half a cup of pumpkin, and then you'll get about 2, maybe 2.5 dozen.
And it does not reduce how pumpkin-y.
No, you don't feel short in flavor.
No, it's super pumpkin.
Their texture crisps up as they cool. So right out of the oven, of course, they're delicious because they're warm. But as they cool, they're going to get a little bit more crisp. And I try to be careful when I store them not to put them too airtight. Like, I put them somewhere where I'm not worried about leaving them and not like burp it if I'm going to put it in like a Rubbermaid container or something like that, so that they don't get soft. Anything you put in an airtight container is going to get soft, right? It's just kind of the way it goes. But like anything made with pumpkin, take my word.
I didn't know that. I was like, what?
As a crunchy cookie lover, yeah, it's really hard to keep cookies crunchy. But as most things with pumpkin, the flavors do mature, right? As it kind of sits. I think if you ever had a pumpkin bread that like you bake one day, it's good, but you have it the next day and it's like
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So,
wow, that's awesome. And you don't frost them.
I do not frost them. Now that's personal preference. My children are here shaking their heads going, no, come on, Mom, frost them. But
I like them
crunchy, and I put the sugar on top, and if you wanted to, you could use a colored sugar. I just like that it looks so natural and fresh and pretty. Yeah. And it gives you that crinkly top that I really like. I'm not a fan of a frosted cookie, so that's my own personal preference. However, if you were someone who liked to make a cookie dip, like, there's a lot of cream cheesy kind of recipes, or a cream cheese frosting dip.
Oh my heavens.
With a little wild orange, I'm thinking. And then leave them plain. Wouldn't that be an amazing dessert?
That is, I tell you what, I think
you want to step it up a little bit.
People get excited about pumpkin spice latte season. I get excited about Susan's pumpkin cookie season. Because it runs from about late September through the holidays. And I mean, if you ever get to pop over, chances are she's making the cookies, or at least maybe she just does that because she knows that I'm always like, are you making the cookies? But this is a great recipe, and they're not, I know I won't be able to do them as well as you do because you just have all that little finesse, baking is like that. But I think I can give this a try. I think I can give it a try. I'm going to gain a lot of weight, but I think I can give it a try.
Well, this is places to walk though, where you're hanging out.
Yeah, right. This was a lot of fun. I think we made a lot of great recipes and shared some good tips.
I think we have a great meal.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm coming over for the soup. You coming for the salad?
Good. I'm ready.
All right. Thank you guys. I hope this was fun.
Bye-bye.